Good morning, one and all present here. Yesterday's session, I enjoyed to teach, but I don't know how have you enjoyed it or not. But I assure you that today also you enjoy my session. So today I am going to explain you the remaining part of yesterday's, that is the uh, break, continue, assumed, and the past statements. And today, after that, we will start with the functions, OOP concepts, modules, packages, arrays, exception, and file handling. And some packages I just give you the introduction. You can learn more in next 4 days about these packages. So now we will start with the break statement. Yesterday I think I explained you what is break statement. Whenever looping is there, we use break and continue statements, right? If you have written one loop and some condition occurs and you don't want to continue with the loop, at that time you have to write the break statement. And second is the continue statement. Sometimes it happens that you don't want to do something when something occurs, right? So at that time you use the continue statement. For example, you want to print the all the numbers that are divisible by 3. So at that time you have to check, and if it is not divisible by 3, then you don't want to print that statement. So that is the continue statement. So I show you the examples of it, how to use the continue and break statements. For break, I have taken one example of vending machine. If there is one vending machine which has some limited number of candies, and some customer asks to buy some number of candies, then if the machine has no candy, then it will shows that out of stock. And if the candy is there, then he will display the message, please take one candy. So first what we will do in this program, first we take the input from the user. Fine. So how to take input? Now you know how to take input from the user, and we want the number, right? So I will write x is equals to input, enter, enter number of candies. Right? I check whether my command is working properly or not. I have to first save my program. I save my program. Now I run my program. What I can see over here is enter number of candies, right? I will enter 3. Right? But still my program is not complete. I have to convert it into int because it is the integer number of candies. Fine. Then I have to write or define the maximum or available candies. So I can say available candies is equals to say 5, right? And then I will write the loop for giving one candies to the customer. So I will write I is equals to 1, I is equals to 1. while I is less than x means what? The number of candies that user has asked. That if I is less than that x, then I have to check if the candy, that number of candies are available in the stock or no. And if it is not available, I will print the out of stock message. Otherwise, I have to print please take one candy, right? So I execute my program. So if I run, I have total 5 candies, and if I ask for 7 candies, oh, sorry, AC. Right, I will ask for 7 candies, then enter number of candies. So it will say that please take one candy for 5 times, because we have only 5 candies in our vending machine and user is asking, customer is asking for 7. So after that it is showing out of stock. So whenever this condition occurs, we have written break. So break will stop the execution of the loop, right? So it will, after whenever break statement is found in any loop, it will comes out of the loop, right? So that is the break statement. Now we will go with the next statement, that is the continue statement. As I given you the example of the division by 3 or 5, right? So if I want to print all the numbers which are divisible by which are not divisible by 5. So I can write this program. So I have this program. I now run this program. Right. So what it's showing me is the all the numbers that are not divisible by 5. If I want all the numbers that are divisible by 5, then if I can change this condition to I mod 5 is not equals to 0. Continue means if i's value is 6, then the continue will increment the i's value and again it will execute the loop. Right. So it will goes to the first statement from where the loop is starting. So increment, generally whenever the for loop is there, the sequence is like first the control variable is initialized, right? Then the condition will be checked, and the third is the update of control variable, right? So first initialization is done, then it will execute the loop. After execution of the loop, I can show it over here. After first step will be initialization, and it will initialize the loop or control statement. Then second will be check the condition, will execute the statements. Then third statement, it will increment the control variable. Fourth will be it will check for the condition. So what happen if the continue statement is written? It will skip this execute part, right? It doesn't execute this part. So if I mod 5 is not equals to 0, at that time it will continue. So if I run this program, then it is showing me all the numbers that are divisible by 5. Fine. So if it number is not divisible by 5, then it will be continued. So it will not be printed. So next the statements after continue inside the loop will not be get executed. Fine. Now the next statement is the pass statement. Pass is nothing, right? Pass is means it does nothing. So whenever you write pass statement anywhere, the meaning of it is just for writing the statement. It is for completing the syntax we require that statement. That's why we write that pass statement. Fine. So I show you one example of this also. So if this is your list, in your list 9 numbers are given. It is positive and negative number, and you only want to print the negative numbers. So if I execute this program, so in list we have 9 numbers. Fine. For I in num, whenever this is the iteration for the from the list. Fine. So for I in num is 1 to 9 numbers are there, and it will take one by one numbers. So initially I is equals to 1, then I is equals to -2, then I is equals to -3, like that. Fine. So if I is greater than 0, then do nothing, right? Why this statement is written? Because we want to, it can also be written in the another way also. without pass, but I just wanted to show you the use of pass. So to complete this is, statement syntax, if you don't write pass, then what happen? It won't be executed. It will gives you the error, right? See, your syntax is not proper. So if you have to fill the required to fill the space where statement is required, you can write pass. So it does nothing, right? If I run this program, I save this and run this program, so it will show you all the negative numbers that are present in this list. So -2, -3, -5, -6. What is our condition for that? I should be less than 0, right? So what condition we have checked to show the use of pass? I have written I is greater than 0, then pass, else print I. Fine. So this is the break continue. This is the break continue pass statements. Right. Next is the assert statement. The assert statement is for checking the condition. Like if you take the input from the user and you want to put some validation on that input. So if you want to know that the number, check that now the number should be greater than 0, right? So at that time you can use the assert, right? Message is optional. It is whenever the condition is expression is true, at that time message will come, and if the condition is false, then the assertion error exception will be generated. Fine. So I show you the example of this also, and at that time you also have to write assert error exception handling you have to do, otherwise it will show error to the user. So if I write is equals to int, enter a number greater than 0. You have prompted user to enter a number greater than 0. You have converted that to integer, right? Now assert if x is greater than 0, then it will shows you the wrong input entered, as you entered x. Now if you run this, enter number greater than 0. I am entering 4. 4 is greater than 0, so it is giving me the wrong input enter, right? Wrong input entered, and after that it is showing me, I have used the AMX. Fine. But if the condition is true, a is greater than 0, condition is true, so it is showing me you entered a. But if I enter negative number, right, I run this program and I enter a negative number, right, so it has shown me assertion error and wrong input entered. Fine. In previous case the condition is fulfilled, so it has given me the user defined message, but in this case it has given me the assertion error, and that is the wrong input entered, right? So whenever we learn the exception, we handle this assertion error, how to write exception in Python, that also we are going to learn. So this will be your break, continue, pass and assert statements. Now we will start with the today's session, that is the functions, right? Everyone is aware of function. If you do C programming, in C programming functions is most important. You always have to write your program with, start with your program with the void main, right? In Java also you have to write your function code inside the function, that is called, you can say, public static void main, right? Inside that you write your code. In Python, it is not required always that you have to write the functions or classes. You can directly also, till this point we have done the programs, all the programs without any functions. We have not created any function. So, but if you want, you can create the functions, classes and objects, right? So today, in today's session, I will be covering this. So functions, we already know that there are two types of functions are there. First is the built-in functions and second is the user-defined functions. If you take built-in function, then functions that are already defined, right, that are already exist in the programming language, that are called the built-in function. No, logically there is no difference, but built-in functions are something that is always required, and that's why the programming language author, the writer has already given that functions. Like for example, in our Python we have used print function, we have used input function. So these are the already defined functions, right? Second part is the user defined functions, that you want something to write, you want to declare or create your own functions, right, according to your requirement. That is the user defined function. Now the syntax of user defined function. So the syntax is, first you have to write the def keyword, right? Whenever you write a function in Python, you have to first write the def keyword, right? So if you say what is the how you write the definition of function, it will start with the def keyword, then name of the function, and then in round bracket you have the parameters of the function, fine. After that you have to do a colon, then colon sign is must in Python, then you have to give the indentation, and then you can write the function coding, right? Whatever statements you write or whatever task you want from the function, that you have to write inside the function, and that is indented, right? It don't be on the same line as the def, fine. So indentation is must, def is must, parameters are optional. You don't require to write parameters always, right? If you don't have parameter, if I am only writing some printing, I am giving some message to the user, so at that time I don't have every time parameter, right? Some error occurred, I want to show only that, so I need not to send any parameter, fine. So at that time the empty parenthesis will be there. If I have parameters, then also I can pass the parameters, right? So this is how you have written in this example. Function 1 is there, right? We have two things are there, function definition, function call. And in C we also have the prototype declaration, function prototype declaration or function declaration. So we have to inform to the C compiler there, this named function is there, it has this many number of arguments, the arguments will be in this order, the type of argument we have to define, then only we can write the function. But in Java, in Python you don't require to declare the function, you only have to write the definition of function, fine, and then you have to call the function. So def func1, def is the keyword, func1 is the name of my function, and in bracket I have not written anything, means I am not passing any parameters to the function, and then colon. After that print I am learning Python function, print I am learning Python function. So function, this much part is my function definition. You can see over the space over here. I don't know whether it is visible to you or not. Right, so this blue, first blue rectangle is the function definition, second rectangle part is the function call, right? How whenever you call the function, the part or the statements inside the functions will get executed, and if you pass parameters, then that parameters will be taken by the function. So what is the output of this program? It will only print I am learning Python function. So now we will try to write one function, simple function we will write for, that is our what we have done in our first program, addition of two numbers, right? So I can say def sum bracket, right? Then I will write a is equals to 5, b is equal, I don't have written the colon, remember to write colon over here, right? Otherwise it will give you the error, fine. A is equals to 5, b is equals to 10, c is equals to a plus b, then I will write print c, and then I will call sum. This part is the function definition, this is function call. Now I save this program, I run this program, and let me check what will be the output of this program. 15. Fine. So now function with the parameters, right? Whenever there are you want to pass the parameters, you have to take the values of the parameters. So I will take some static value for a and b, right? So I will take over here, I will write a comma b. Over here I will write 5 comma 10. Run this program. Moving 15 once again. Right now function returns value, right? Function will return some value. Whenever you write the function, you want some output from the function. At that time you can say function is returning some value. Fine. So for returning the value, return statement is used, right? So whenever return statement is there, at that time you have to store that value somewhere. Fine. So if I write return c, so C first def sum a comma b, c is equals to a plus b, return c. Now I have to take some variable over here which will get the value returned by the sum function, right? Sum is returning the addition of a and b, and that I have to store somewhere because return c will returning the value. Fine. So I will write print sum equals to comma x. Fine. And now you can run this program. So I will run module. So it is showing me sum is equals to 15. Fine. This is all about the functions, how to write function, how to return values. Now we will concentrate on the parameters, right? How to
excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Some participants are requesting to please make it slow. So if it is possible, please slow it.
Okay. So functions, what is there in the function? Def sum a comma b, right? So c is equals to addition of a and b, and whatever value is there in c, we are returning that value. So return c, right? And we are over here, we are calling the function. Whatever is written by the function will be stored into your x variable. Then we are printing the value of x, right? So def sum a comma b colon c is equals to a plus b, return c, x is equals to sum 5 comma 10, print sum comma x. So this is the how we have we can write function, simple function in Python. Now function, this is a C type of thing, right? You pass the parameter and it is giving you the values. But in Python there are various features are there with the function also. There are various facilities, that is flexibility is given by the Python for the to the developers. The first is the you can have the default value for the parameter, right? So if I don't pass the value of parameter at that time, it will take the default value. Fine. So the second point is to declare a default value of an argument, right? To declare a default value of an argument. So over here, I don't pass the value of b and I run this program. What happened? It is giving me the error. Why? Because missing one required positional parameter b, right? One parameter is missing at the time of calling this function. There are only two parameters are there in the definition, and you are passing only one. So any language will gives you error at this point. But if you define the default value for this variable, if you write b is equals to 10, so if you don't pass the value of b at that time, it will take default value as 10. So it will be c is equals to a plus b. So if in this case, if you don't pass the value, then it will take the value of b is equals to 10. And you can also use the value with the And also have sum 5, 20, right? And then again print the sum. Right? So now run this. Right? So it is showing 15 and 25. In first case, it has shown me error. If I don't write equals 10, then it is showing me error over here. This part won't give error, but if I run module, if I remove b is equals to 0, then it is giving me the error because second parameter is written over here and it is not passed at the time of calling the function. Right? So I have to pass value to this function if I had not written or declared the default value for this parameter. So if I write default value for this will be 20, then I can use now this. So I can run and I run module. So now it is showing me 25. So if I don't pass the value for b, it will automatically take b is equals to 20. Fine. Till now, any questions? Pradnya madam? Yes, any questions? If you have any questions?
No, ma'am. No questions.
Yeah. So if any questions, please let me
Ma'am,
know.
just one question. Can we pass various arguments for a single function such as variables?
Various arguments.
Can we
Yes,
pass various arguments for a single function
yes,
such as var args?
yes, we can pass. We can pass various arguments to a function. That is fine. If you have one, a is your string, b is your number, then it is fine. I can show you. Here you can write name, right? And here you will write the some other variable, name and salary. I can see, fine. And you want to only you are printing some value over here, so you can print name, comma salary. At that time you have to call, instead of name you have to give Brunali and salary will be 70,000. Right? It is not returning any value, so I don't write this. It is also not required to write this print statement because it is not returning any value and we are not storing it anywhere. We are only printing the name and salary. And so you can use it like this. Fine. So it is showing me first parameter is of string type, second is of integer type, so it is taking the variable, different kind of variable. Fine. So we have done to declare a default value of an argument. Fine. Now next is, so much disturbance is coming. Prajna madam. Hello. Some disturbance.
Is it okay, ma'am, now?
Yes. So you can also change the order in which the arguments can be passed in Python. How it is possible? If you change the argument, if I pass 70,000 as my name and Runali as salary, let us check what happened. Yes, it is taking because we have not defined any type over here. The name is always a string or name is always a salary, right? Another thing is, actually this is the logical error. If I do like this, then it is a logical error. But over here, what is written, you can also change the order in which the arguments can be passed in Python. But it is like this. You can give the variable name over here. For salary, I am passing the 70,000, and for name, I am passing Munali. So this is also called the named argument. And now I run this program, so it is showing me Brunali and 70,000, right? If you don't give the variable name or parameter name over here, then it will take randomly first value will be assigned to first parameter, second value will be assigned to second parameter. But if I write salary is equals to 70,000, name is equals to Brunali, so it understands that for name this value is there, for salary this value is there. So that is this is called the named arguments, right? And this is another feature that is available in Python and not available in earlier languages like C and Java. Right? Next is the multiple arguments can also be passed as an array, right? Multiple arguments can also be passed as a right. So over here you can pass multiple arguments for one parameter. So if I print this, I copied this, and I run this. I save this program, I run this, right? So it is showing me I have passed 5 values and it is taken into star args variable, and it is showing me args. Now I want to pass only first value of that. So I can write args of 0. This can also be done in this C and Java, I think. And so it is showing me the first value. So this is passed as the least. Right? So you can pass multiple values to the parameter, but at that time you have to write the star and then argument name. So one argument will be pointing to these 5 values. So now this is also over. Multiple arguments can also be passed as an array. Now returning multiple values from function. Returning multiple values from function. If you want to write single function for addition and subtraction, is it possible in C or Java? I think it, fine. So in this function, we are doing addition of A and B. We are subtracting A from B from A, and the result will be stored in B. And we are returning these two variables C and D. But at that time, we also require to store these values. We also require two variables over here. So we have to write x comma y is equals to sum comma sub. And now we run this module. So okay, I have not printed this value, that's why it is not giving me anything. So you have to print these values, right? So I will write x is equals to comma 5 is equals to 5, save it and run it. Right, so you can see x is equals to 15, y is equals to 5. So two parameters we have passed, that is 10 and 5. C will be 15, D will be 5, and that will be returned, and that will be stored into x and y, and it is we are printing x is equals to x, y is equals to 5. Fine. So
ma'am, there is one question. Yes. All parameters can be defined as default or only few. Like in this example of sum, we have defined one.
Yeah, we can define multiple parameters also as the default. If I declare over here 10 and over here the value of b will be 5. It is fine if you declare all the variables as the default variables, right? And over here I don't write anything. Now I run this program. Right, so still it is giving me the same result because default value for A is 10, B is 5. Again, I change the value to 50 and 5. Yes, so you can declare multiple variables as the multiple parameters as the default parameters. Fine. Now, next is the anonymous function. Anonymous functions or lambdas, right? Anonymous function is a function that are not bound to name, right? So whenever we write anonymous function, we don't give any name to this function. This is a special kind of function that exists in Python, and we don't give any name to this function, right? It is just created by writing a keyword lambda, right? If you write lambda first word as lambda, then it will be understood by the system that this is the function, anonymous function, right? It can also take any number of arguments and return an evaluated expression, right? It is created without using the def keyword. You don't require to write the def keyword for this function. Fine. So you can see over here the syntax of it is lambda. That is the first keyword we have to write lambda. Then argument list that is required. Whatever arguments are required in this expression, we can write that as the argument list, and then expression. Fine. So now how to write this function? If you want to find the square root of any square of any number, right? So I have written one function, square of two numbers, and over here I called this function. If you want to implement any formulas, you can use this lambda function, right? So now I saved this. What is there in this? The returning value, whatever returning value of this lambda function, that will be stored into this square variable, right? And I have one expression is there, that is x1 into x1, or else you can also write x1 square. So you can also write in another way x1 square, right? So it will return you the square of x1, and only one parameter required in this case is the x1. If multiple parameters required by this expression, then you can write a, b, c, whatever number of parameters are there. Using that parameters, you have to pass comma separated. Fine. So square of a number, comma square of 10, right? So you have to save this. Now run this module. So what is it is giving anonymous function example, that is whatever we have printed over here. Then lambda, this part is just do the calculation. Whenever you call this, at that time this statement will be executed. So 10 will be passed as x1, and 10 square will be calculated, and the 10 square will be returned to the square, and that is the value that is returned is 100, and this statement will print the value. Fine. So now I write the same lambda function for the addition, right? So I will write sum is equals to lambda. Two variables that are required for this lambda function are a comma b, colon a plus b. Fine. Two variables are required, that's why I have written a and b, and these parameters are comma separated. Now I print this value, so I will write print sum is equals to comma sum. Now I execute this program. Oh, I had not passed parameters. So sum is equals to value of a comma b. So sum is equals to, I can say 5 comma 50. You can see this printing sum is equals to 55. So in such way you can implement any formula you required in your program, right? Whenever implementation you do a implementation of a research based project or anything, at that time you can use this lambda function for writing your expression that will be used multiple times. You use it for many times, right? And you can see how this function is called, lambda function is called. It will be called using this sum or this square values, right? So square of 10. So 10 is actually this part. And this is the square, that is, you can say name. Actually, it is unnamed, but you can call it like this, right? So whenever you want to call this function, you always have to call it with the sum. Right, so this will be the anonymous functions. Now scope of variable, everyone who is using C will be aware of the scope of the variable. We have local variable and the global variable. Local variable is where it is inside the function and its scope is limited, right? If you write two functions in C, one function you declare one variable int a, another function you declare one variable int x, right? And in main function you are calling these functions and you want to print the value of this a and x, but it is not possible. Why? Because these variables are local to those functions where it is declared. Fine. So that are the local variables. So its scope is limited. In Python also we have the local variables. Right. So in this one, right, print local variable example. This is just for messaging, right? Define message a is equal to 10. Print value of a is a, right? And then you have returned nothing from this function, and you have called this function using the message and bracket, empty bracket, and you after that you are printing the value a. Now I run this program. So I run this. What happened? It is giving me error. Why it is giving me error? Because I have returned this print statement, right? The error, you can see that the error is at this place only, right? Print a, name error, name a is not declared, is not defined. Fine. So this name error is given by this program because the local variable we are using in outside the function. A is a local variable that we want to, or we are using outside the function. Fine. So print a will gives you error. Without print a, either it is working or not. We can check it. So we run this module, and it is giving you the output local variable example. Value of a is 10. Fine. So over here, if you have defined any variable, then that will be that is a new variable that is not used over here. Fine. And if it is used over here, then also it will be, now we can check. If I write a is equals to 20 over here, a is equals to 10 over here, and now I print the value of a, what happened? Just check what happened. Right, inside the function the value of a is equals to 10. So this a and this a are different. This a is the global a variable, this is the local variable. So this will be used inside the function. Outside the function, whatever value is displayed, that is the global variable. So now again I will take another variable b is equals to 10, and I want to use this b over here. So value of a, I can say value of a comma b is a, and I remove this a is equals to 10. Now what happened? Now what happened? Value of a comma b is 20 comma 10, because inside the function you can, a and b are the global variable. So inside the function you can access the global variable, fine, but local variables cannot be accessed outside your function. Fine. So over here it is giving you 10 and 20 and 10. Now I give a is equals to 10. So what happened now? It is printing a comma b is equals to 10 comma 10, because this is the local variable, and local variable has higher preference than the global variable. Whenever it
Hello,
is
ma'am.
declared, yes.
There is a question. Suppose
Yes.
I want to call some function again with 3 arguments, then how I will call?
Three arguments means what? Again with three arguments.
Yes, three arguments. And there is one more question. Does it identifies from the number of parameters?
Number of how? What?
Does actually lambda function you are told na? So
Yes,
for
yes.
that, does it identifies from the number of parameters?
What is the need for identifying number of parameters? Why we require that?
How many number of lambda functions allowed in program, and does it identifies from the number of parameters? The question is like this.
See, I don't think there is some limit for defining the functions in defining the lambda function, right? You can define any number of lambda functions, and I also don't know how to identify number of parameters in lambda function. I also have to check for that.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
So now a is equals to 20, but here we were. So if I write a is equals to 10 inside the function, then I have to print it value of a comma b is a comma b. Fine. So now it is taking this a, not the outer a. Why? Because it is inside, this print statement is inside the function, and it has the more preference for local variables than the global variable. If local variable doesn't exist, it will take the global variable. So this is the global and local variables. Now the next is this is all for the functions in Python. What we have studied is, first thing is the how to write the function. The keyword that is used for writing the function is def. We use def function for writing the function, right? Then the function name, inside the square round bracket we write the parameters, and whenever you want to change the order of parameter passing at the time of calling, if you want to change the order of parameter passing, then it is possible in Python. Then new thing in Python is you can declare any variable or any parameter as the default parameter, fine, and the lambda function, global variable and local variable. Now we will start with the OOP concept. If you have learned the Java, then you are aware of these OOP concepts. I just give you the brief introduction of it. So classes and objects. What is class? What is object? Class is something that is you can say it is a model. It is a template that doesn't exist, right? It is a thinking process, you can say. And object is the real object, real life object. You can say car. If you think of car, so car has some features, right? Car will have some number of wheels, its color, its model. So that is a class, you can say. Fine. Car is the class, but in this class there are various cars are there. Physical objects exist, that is your object, right? So object will, if you say color from one car will have the white color, one car will have the black color. So it is the speciality of that object, and it is physically exists, whereas class does not physically exist, right? We only define the template or structure for our object. The object hoga, then it has this many attributes are there, these methods are there. Methods is what? It's behavior, right? So method and attributes combined, and it will become an object, right? So object will have some behavior, it has some attributes. You can say it is the attributes are our variables and the behavior is our methods, right? So first you have to define the structure, that is your class, right? So in Python also we can use the classes and objects. Then the next concept of OOP is the encapsulation. Encapsulation is to binding the attribute and the behavior together, right? So using the encapsulation, you can what I can say, you can easily access your objects, fine. So next is the abstraction.
Ma'am,
Unnecessary data
Monali
from
ma'am,
the, yes.
there is one question.
Yes.
Anonymous function, can you
Yes.
please repeat?
Repeat.
Anonymous
Okay.
function, can you please repeat?
Anonymous function. What is anonymous function? It is a function which don't have the Pradnya. I am
Yes,
repeating
ma'am.
the.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
I am repeating. You please switch off your mind. Okay. So anonymous function is a function that are not bound to name, right? So we don't give any name to the function, even though we give the name, but the syntax I can say it is a different. So we can say we are not giving the name to the function, right? It is created by using a keyword lambda, right? So in our example, I think I have removed that example, right? So uh, yes, we don't give any name to this lambda function. We only write lambda x1 into x1 raised to 2. Fine. So without this square name also you can use it. Fine. But at that time you only pass the value. But for calling this you have to give some name over here, right? So we don't use def in this. Def generally whenever we write any function we use the def. But for writing the lambda or anonymous function we don't write def. Fine. So lambda is created without using the def keyword, right? Lambda takes any number of arguments and returns an evaluated expression. So after colon, whatever we write, that is our expression. If you see the syntax of lambda function, so we will have lambda argument list colon expression. So what it will do, it will, if you are doing or evaluating any expression, then you have to pass the values for its parameters, right? For example, a plus b minus c. So you require 3 parameters for this. So you have to pass a comma b comma c over as your argument list, and you have to write, you can write like this, lambda a comma b comma c colon a plus b minus c. So this is your one lambda function, right? It is after execution of this statement a b c, it will returning you some value, right? If you execute this function, evaluate this expression, it will have some value, right? Some value that is calculated. So that value will be returned as the sum, or you can say any variable. So I can say x is equals to lambda a comma b comma c colon a plus b minus c. Now whenever you want to evaluate this expression at that basis, you can call it like x of, I can call it like x of a comma b comma c, where my abc value will be something. I can also pass the static values like 5 comma 2 comma 3. Fine. So I have x 5 3 2. So it will be calculated. I can we can execute this program. Just give it. Execute this program. So I will executing this program. And it is showing me the result 6. So 8 plus 5 plus 3 minus 2 is 6. Now again I use the same function with this with some 3 values. I will ask user to enter ABC. So I will write input A is equals to int of input enter A. I will write B is equals to int of input and I will write C is equals to int of input, enter C. Then I again call this function with the parameters ABC. So I can say result with ABC is equal to X in bracket A, B, C. S. I just comment out this. Now I run this program. It is asking first result is printed 6. Now it is asking for the values of ABC. So I will asking enter 8. A, 4 and B. Right, so it is giving me the result 10. 8 plus 4, 12 minus 2, that is 10. So in such way you can implement the lambda function. Now is it fine? So now we have started with OOP concepts, fine. So encapsulation is binding the objects, binding the attributes and methods together, right? Then abstraction is hiding the unnecessary details from the user. So if you have used 5 attributes inside your function and the user is only interested in 2 attributes, then you can do that in OP or in object inside the classes. We can declare our variables as private and or public, right? What is the difference between private and public? Private will be accessed using the using inside the functions only and inside the class only, and public will be accessed outside the classes, right? So that is the major difference. So abstraction is hiding some information that is not required to the user. Then inheritance is to inherit, or it is generally used for reusability, right? Whenever you write any program and you already have declared one class, inside that you have some parameters, inside that you have some attributes like you have the department, then employee name, then employee salary. Now you want to change that class, right? Some additional functionality you require for that class. So what you do, because it is used at many places, so you don't want to change the whole programming, right? So instead of that, you keep whatever you have already done, that you keep as it is, and you use that into creating a new thing, right? So whatever features exist that you are using, and you are creating new classes and objects, right? You are creating new classes. So that is the inheritance, right? So inheriting something from the already existing things, that is inheritance. Now polymorphism is to have more than one form, right? Whenever you declare any function, that it can have multiple forms, right? So if you write sum can have 2 variables a and parameters a and b, right? Sum will do addition of a and b, but which type of a and b it is? Sometimes it will be the integer a and b, sometimes it will be floating point a and b, sometimes it is a string a and b. So you can have multiple forms for the single you can say single task, right? So that is the polymorphism. Now how to write classes and objects into Python. For writing the classes, class keyword is there, so we have to write the class keyword, then we will write the class name, then colon, and then the statements, whatever are the argument attributes of your class, the methods of your class that you write, and that must be indented, right? Indentation is everywhere, wherever you want blocks at that time. In by Java, you write the square, curly bracket for the making the blocks, but in Python we don't have the curly brackets. Fine, we don't have any type of brackets, so we use the indentation for showing the blocks. Fine. So how to create class? Now I create one class. I can say I create a class student, right? So how can I create that class? I will write class student, and then I will write colon, right? Colon is compulsory at each and every place. You have to remember to write colon. Fine. Then press enter. So it is in your ideally it is already indented. Fine. So indentation is there. After that, we can declare the attributes and the methods of the class. Fine. So this is the how to create class. Now, whenever you write any class or whenever you create any object, at that time you require some default values for that object, and that will be initialized using the constructor. You have to write the constructor for initializing your objects. Fine. So I will also use right. So in Java, how you write the constructor? You have the same name as the class name. The method which has the same name as the class name, that are called the constructor. But in Python, we don't have that. We write underscore underscore init underscore underscore for writing the constructor. So if I want to create one constructor in this class, then I will write def. It is a function. Constructor is nothing but a function which will initialize the values of attributes of values of class variables, you can say, right? So underscore underscore init underscore underscore, this is the constructor in Python. So whenever class is created for the first time, object is created for the first time, that time only this part will be executed. Afterward it won't be executed. So it will be executed only once in a life cycle of a object. Fine. Whenever object is created, only at that time only the constructor will be executed, right? Its structure is like this: def underscore underscore init and bracket. Inside this bracket I have written the self, right? So self is the variable which is similar to this in the Java, right? This is the current instance of the object. Current instance of the object is whichever object is currently we are creating, self is that, right? So now I create some instance variable. Now there are two types of variables are there in Python. First is the instance variable, second is the class variables or static variables, right? You already know static variables in C or Java. What is static variables? It is a variable whose scope is the lifetime of your program, right? So it will be only, there is only one copy of a static variable. If you declare any variable with the static keyword, then it's only one copy is maintained into the program, into whole program, right? So class variable or static variable are similar to the static variable and class variables are similar to the static variables, right? So only single copy of class variable is created, right? And instance variables, multiple copies, or the number of number of objects of that class, that many number of copies of are created for the instance variable. So if I have 5 objects, 5 copies of instance variables are there, right? And the value of each instance variable will be different. So because it is belongs to the object, not the class. In class variables belongs to the object. So now how to create this instance variable? We can write it inside the init, right? So we can have in this example we have name, department and institute. 3 class variable instance variables are there. can say self.name is equals to Mrinali, self.department computer, self.institute KJS IIT. Fine. Now def talk self. This is the method. What is this name, department and institute? These are the instance variables. So I can write over here, these are the instance variables. Right? All three are instance variables: self.name, self.department and self.institute. Now I want to print the values of these variables. Right? So how can I do that? How can I print the values of these variables? I can write the method for printing these variables. So I can write diff top, or you can say display. Def top right. So sorry, def top self. Top is nothing but this is the method, or this is the function or method inside the class. Right, so you can say this is the method of the class. So top is the name, then self is the parameter. Whenever you write constructor or function, any function, you have to give self as the first parameter. Right, self will be your first parameter of any function or constructor. Right, now you want to print the values that we have created at the time of creation of the object. So you want to print name, computer, name, department and institute. So I can write self.name. For accessing these variables, instance variable, we always use self.name, self.department, self.institute. Right, so you are in this, we are printing the same values. Now this is the definition of class. Now we want to create the object from this class. Right, so how you can create the object? You can create the object as object name is equals to class name. Right, object name is equals to class name and empty brackets. Right, this is your S1 is your object, student is the name of the class. Right, and now you can see over here name is different. I had given different name, and in this program it is different name. So I will make it student as capital. Fine. So S1 is equals to student. Then I can call this method S1.talk. Right. I will call this method S1.talk. Now we run this program. Right. So what it is showing me, hi, I am Munali, my department is computer, I am a faculty at KJS IEIT. Fine. Now I don't want this values. This is the fixed value, right? Any object you create, the name of that object will be always Munali. Department is always computer. That we don't want. Fine. What we want to pass these values. So we create the constructor in such a way that we can pass the name, then we pass the department, and we pass the institute. Right. So instead of this Mronali, what I write now, the parameter that I am taking from here. Right. So you can, I had given the same name for this instance variable and this parameter, but you can give different things. So I can say name parameter, name P, department underscore P, and institute underscore P. Right. So whatever value is coming at the time of creating this object, I am assigning that value to my instance variables. Right. Storing that values in my instance variable. So I can write dept underscore P, and next is institute underscore p. Now I again run this program, but in this you also have to give the parameters. You also have to pass parameters from here. Why? Because it is expected. Fine. So now I pass the parameters from here. So I write Mronali, comma computer comma institute. Institute is KJSIEIT. Fine. Now I run this program. Again, I will get the same result. Why? Because I have used the same values for passing the parameters. Instead of this, I can take these values also from user. Whatever user's name, I can print that name. Fine. So I will write S or N1 or N is equals to enter input, enter name, enter your name. And I will write DEPT. So for that I will take D is equals to input, enter your department. Right? Then I can say institute I is equals to input, enter your institute. And over here I change it to N, comma D, comma I. Now I run this program. Enter your name ABC XYZ. Right? Department is computer. Institute is KJSIEIT. Again, it is printing, hi, I am ABC XYZ. My department is computer. I am faculty at KJSIEIT. So what we have done in this, we have created the class, we have created the constructor, we have created the object, and we also have initialized this object with the user defined values. Fine. Is there any question regarding this? Any questions?
There is a question. You can ask, Pradnya, don't worry.
Okay. Ma'am, is it compulsory always to write init function?
It is not compulsory, but if you want to initialize the attributes of your class, then it is compulsory. If you don't want any attributes to initialize, then it is not compulsory.
There is one more question.
Yes.
Lambda using return statement. Means we can use return statement in Lambda function. The question is like that.
Return statement. Acha, return, okay.
Return word actually.
Return is not required, right? Whatever the value evaluated, that will be returned by the Lambda. So return statement is not required in Lambda, and it is not there.
Okay.
And what is difference between class?
So we will have our time. You can class and object. What is difference between class and object?
Class is not something that is real. Fine. It is just a template, or you can say model. Fine. If I am making something, it is just idea. I am making something, then this will be there, this will be there, this will be there. And when you really making that has some, if you are making some, you can say toy, right? So if you are making that toy, then you can decide what is the shape of my toy, what will be the color of my toy. I will make like this, I will make like this. So whatever you think, that is your class, right? And whenever you really create that idea, you really convert that idea to reality, that will be your object, right? So if you think about circle, so circle, what whenever you are told that make a circle, so you know that I have to make the circle, so I require the center for that, I require the radius for that circle, but you don't know what is the value of that radius, or what is the center point of that circle. And whenever you really draw the circle, at that time you define that the radius of this my circle will be 5. right? Some other person will also create the same circle, but radius of his circle will be different. So shape is circle, it has a radius, but the value will be different. So circle, you can say it is a class, right? And the circle of that, the person who has drawn that, that is the one object. The another person's circle is the second object. So that is the reality, fine. And student, the class is not the reality, is it? It is the idea, right? So it is a template like thing.
Okay.
Is it clear now?
Which uses less memory, define function or lambda function? DEF, which we are defining in function then.
It is not in the means terms of the memory, because memory is not so much memory is taken by the code, right? Whenever your data is there, data will take so much memory. So I don't think it is for the memory point of view, but it is created for the usability, right? You can easily write your expressions or formulas using the lambda functions, right? That's why it is created. So memory, I don't think, or I don't know if there is a difference between the def function and the lambda function with respect to memory. I don't have an idea.
How to build user defined function with expressions?
User defined, I had shown now. If you want to add two numbers, then you have to write def, then the name of the function. Inside the round brackets, you have to write some parameters, whatever parameters you want for your function. So if I have removed that.
And
Just a
same
minute.
function.
Just a minute.
Okay.
If you have a sum is your lambda function, what you are doing using sum is the you are adding two numbers, right? So lambda a comma b colon, right? Your expression is a plus b. This is my lambda function. Now I convert this function to the def function. So I can write def sum in bracket. I will write the same parameters that I have taken over here, right? And I write return a plus b. Fine. This is my simple function. This is my lambda function. Fine. Next.
Okay. Same function with a number of arguments. This is just question.
Same function with number of arguments.
Number of, there are many questions right from.
I think it is incomplete question. If you are asking that the same function or function name is unique, right? So in the same program, you cannot have the same function name again and again.
Okay. And function calling itself means and if talk a function to call itself not clear, please explain one.
Calling the function.
Function call itself.
Calling the function is whenever, this is just you have defined the function, but whenever you really want to do a plus b, at that time you have to call the function, fine. So you will write c is equals to sum of a comma b. So this sum of a comma b, this is the function calling, right? And whatever value that is calculated using this function, that will be assigned to the c. So function definition you only write once, right? But calling can be done any number of times. So if you want to again call some other numbers, so you can write sum of c comma d. So you can write x is equals to sum of c comma d. So the function is whatever is a repeated thing, you can reduce that using the function. So you don't have to write each time a plus b, a plus b, a plus b. Instead of that, you can write one function. So it is only the static part that always remains same, but the values of that whenever you call the function, at that time it is actually executed.
And how to pass dynamic values to functions?
Dynamic values means what? What is the meaning of dynamic variables? Whoever has asked this question, please clear what do you mean by dynamic variables. Yesterday also someone has asked what is the difference between Java and major difference between Java and Python. So major difference I can say it is in the way of declaration and use of variables. Right? In Python you don't require to declare the variables, whereas in Java you require to declare the variable. And the second thing is the dynamicity of the variables. So if I declare once a int, next time I declare a as the float, but it is not allowed in Java. So that is a major difference I found in Python and Java. So next question. Is there any questions? More questions?